Everyone to the Naked Ambition podcast, where we speak with the people who are making an impact in tech, innovation, and leadership all around the world. I am your host, Fiona Triaca. So, on the show today, I am so super excited. This one has been a little while in the making to be joined by Kath Blackman, who is the CEO of Versa and an absolute trailblazer for all things digital and new ways of working. Welcome, Kath.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm just going to give a bit of an intro to Kath and also to Versa. For those of you who haven't heard of them, I'm sure many of you out there have. They are probably one of the world's leading digital transformation agencies that are powered by conversational AI. They specialize in the integration of conversational voice AI technologies to help create better conversations and experiences for their clients, who are some of Australia's largest companies with an international presence as well. A few things about Kath and the team at Versa. They were actually Australia's first agency to operate a 4-day work week. And they've kind of made that model more commonplace. Kath's spoken about it a lot here in Australia. They were named by Fast Company as one of the best workplaces for innovators globally. This is alongside enormous companies like Amazon, Salesforce, and 3M. A couple of accolades for Kath as well, if we don't embarrass her too much. She had a massive year in 2020. So while, many of us out there were like, what's happening in 2020? Kath was named Executive of the Year, CEO of the Year. She was a finalist for that. CEO Magazine's Media Exec of the Year, which she took out. B&T's Women in Media Awards. She was actually Woman of the Year, pretty impressive. And for the same group, the leading entrepreneur and founder. So congratulations on a massive year, Kath.
Thank you very much. It was all a little horrifying, but I felt very lucky to be recognised, and I'm just happy that the message has got out there. Mental health in the workplace is something I'm super passionate about, and that really what those awards have done is given me a platform to talk about it in a broader context outside of our industry, which has been great.
Amazing. It must have been like being the top film in an awards, an Oscar season or something. You just keep rolling them out. I love it.
Yeah, it was a bit.
I want to get into some of those topics actually, because you do have some really strong views and some great examples as well of the sorts of things that you do around mental health. And I know it was a big year for everyone. But can we dive into this topic of conversational AI? It's a massive one at the moment around, big organisations across Australia, globally, and all the agencies talking about it as well. Can you tell us about some of the work you're doing in this space right now at Versa?
Yeah, of course. Look, our journey with conversational AI started in 2017. So I had a year previously I go to South by Southwest every year, and I really saw this voice as a platform to communicate with brands kind of start to take hold in the US. And I realized that although there was no players in Australia, that we would be not far behind. If you looked at Netflix or some of Amazon itself, it doesn't take much for Australians to kind of grab onto a technology and run with it. So in 2017, we launched with Amazon and Google, with Google Assistant and Amazon Alexa, and we built a lot of the original voice platforms that you kind of know. And look, voice definitely hasn't been as fast to pick up, I think, in this market as it has been in, say, the US or Europe, which probably has as much to do with the fact that Amazon is actually catching up, and that whole adding things to shopping lists and automatically doing is just, a lot of the retailers haven't quite got onto that yet. But so we built a lot of that to start with. And what I realized at the end of that first wave, if you like, is that what we had was this super talented team of not voice engineers, but actual conversational engineers. So that ability to build a conversation, whether it's like via a bot or whether it's via voice, or whether it's live chat, for example. That was what we were good at. And so that's what we have spent the last 2 years doing, and really honing our skill around that omni-channel. So at the moment, we're building for a brand in the US, we're building a text chat bot. So actually via just normal text on your phone, where a brand, this is a health and beauty brand, can have a conversation with a consumer and actually help them get through to that buy decision. So we do everything from that to WeChat, to Messenger, and then through to whether it is voice on the voice, or websites and apps. And the most exciting thing by far that's happened to me in the last 12 months, and we've just talked about some of the awards, I realise, but we relaunched our website, and we built something that had never, ever been built before anywhere in the world. And to be able to have that privilege of being able to do that and show people globally what was possible and what the future of web design could look like has been super exciting. So, and what we built was this website that you have a conversation on one side with the user, and on the other side, the content is dynamically changing based on the conversation you're having with them. So imagine that from an e-commerce perspective. If you're a clothing brand, you're talking to them about, you know, what have you got coming up? What colors do you like? And on the right-hand side of the screen, they are seeing the products change and the clothing change based on the conversation they're having. And it's like, oh, what do you think of this? Yeah, I like it, but it doesn't look like it'd be great in my size. Okay, let me give you a cup. What size are you? Okay, let me give you another couple of options. So really kind of starting to get much closer to that concierge experience that you get in store. And that in 2020 was what customers were demanding, right? Because they had to move out of the stores, but they still wanted to kind of replicate that high touch experience, and yet they couldn't get hold of brands. And so that's where we've fitted it, and it's automation, augmentation of customer. We're doing heaps of customer care, teamwork. It's not about replacing people, it's just augmenting so you don't have to sit on the phone for hours at a time. Oh, there's so much more that we've done. I'd love to talk about this all day.
We're going to get into it. We are going to get into it. I'm glad you've actually touched on your own website, because I did see that a month ago, and I remember thinking, I think it was like bedtime when you're doing that scroll where you go around and you're checking in that loop that, you know, we all pretend we don't do, but we do. And I was looking and something popped up and I saw it and I went into it. I was like, oh my God, this is so walking the talk. You've actually converted your whole website. So explain a little bit more about what it now looks like, because this is, you know, obviously mostly service-based business. We're talking about, you know, digital consulting in the most part, you know, so people go on and you kind of go, what are you interested in, Fiona? What are you here for? Which I think is so cool, and is so, you know, beyond the kind of brochure sites, I guess, that you see so much in this space. That's really, what are you looking for, and then dishing up the services based on what people say.
And that was so that was really what this all came from, is walking the talk or whatever was really what I wanted to do. I so believe in this as the new kind of way of designing websites, that I really had to make sure that I had a platform that I could point to say, this is what I've been talking about. People ask, you know, I think that you, from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, that must have been so much fun, you know, breaking new ground. And in fact, it was awful. There were literally tears from all of us.
Because it wasn't working?
Because I had a team. We were originally a digital agency. We have some very, very good designers, UX people, you know this, strategists, plus front end design. We've got a big tech team, so we do a lot of front end and back end build. And when it came down to it, I thought that everyone believed in what I believed in, but it turns out there was a bit of trepidation about taking away the traditional nav. You know, so I would constantly be coming back to have design reviews with my team. This is on our website. And they'd be like, oh, so we just like threw navigation in there as a secondary. You know, there was talk at one side, I remember this, and they're going to kill me for telling you this, but you know, they actually had this concept where it was like, look, we'll give them your site, Kath, but if they don't like it, there'll be a button that says back to traditional, and it'll flip back to another site. And I was like, nope, that is not. And I understand, in all seriousness, that our website makes people feel uncomfortable. It is actually designed to make people feel uncomfortable. A lot of people might hate it. I don't care if people hate it. I don't care if it makes people uncomfortable. I don't care to a certain extent whether they get to what they're trying to get to. What I'm trying to do is to create discussion and also show what it could become. It's not perfect, but I can tell you the results have been amazing, like absolutely incredible, because we go in and ask the clients, just one, potential clients most of the time, just this one question: how can we help? And then they tell us. So if they want to know, if they've seen me talk at a conference and they want to know more about the 4-day week, for example, they can say, oh, I'm just wanting to know more about Kath Blackman, the 4-day week, and we'll deliver that content for them. Or if they're wanting to hear, because they know all about us and they just want to know, do you have case studies in e-commerce? Well, we'll give them case studies in e-commerce. So it has been a game changer from an SEO perspective, because we've now got thousands of pages rather than, because we're not constrained to a navigation, obviously. But more importantly than that, we have increased our traffic and they are going way deeper into our site. So, and it's just more interesting. Like, so if you search for, I'll use me as an example again, if you search for Kath Blackham, it says this is Kath's bio, but it also says in the chat, hey, Kath has written a couple of articles recently. Do you want me to show you some of those? Yeah, that'd be great. Oh, here's one on something that she wrote on digital transformation. And, oh, by the way, she feels really passionately about the 10 tenets of the business. Do you want me to show you those? So you can really start influencing people, but in a conversational way. It's not like, you don't have to use tickers, or not that anyone uses tickers anymore. I'm definitely showing my age, but you know, you don't have to put big things flashing. You just, because you're having that conversation and it's one-on-one. It's not pushing information back. They can at any stage say, actually, that's not what I want to find out. I want to find out more about, you know, whether you do service design. And we'll be the first to say, look, you know, this is our approach to service design. We do it this, but we don't go here, but here's some of our partners, or whatever it is. Like, we really are able to get that insight that I would argue very, very few organizations are able to do online. So sorry, off my soapbox, over to you. You can see how passionate I am. You can see why there were tears.
I'm laughing because I can so imagine that convo, because I can just think it'll be, okay, we get it. We get the vision. We're building it, but this is super risky.
Yeah.
You know, this is our website. This is the first thing so many people are going to see. And if we lose them, are they coming back? So, you know, and can we just have the fallback to the basic navigation for people who are hating the experience?
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, but if we do that, then they're just going against everything that we say we believe in about the power of this to actually replace, you know, like, like this is actually one question I want to get on. So this is a really good segue into that. So thinking about the possibilities of conversational AI, you know, and you just said before, because I think most people, when they think about this, whether it's, I know voice AI and conversational, they're slightly different, but most people think about, you know, just chatbots and, you know, replacing people, customer service people on the phone, for example. So this is more around like what other, you know, day-to-day services is this potentially going to replace in the next few years? Things that you're really excited about, or things that we sort of do day to day beyond what people understand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I actually don't, and I'm very, very glad you asked this question, because it's one that I get a lot. And I actually don't believe that, I don't talk about automation. So I don't, and when I define automation, that is a machine replacing a human being.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not about that. Now, can you streamline, let's call it, a contact center using automation? Yes, of course you can. It's just not what we're necessarily passionate about. Where I actually think that the industry, like not the industry, but actually organizations generally will start using conversational AI for is more in an augmentation way. So augmenting their team to allow you to, so if you go in store, and we've actually been moving towards this for years now. CRMs actually were the beginnings of it. Data was the beginning of all of this. So this single source of truth, understanding no matter where your user is, and you know more about this than any of us, Fiona, so I'm not going to tell you how to suck eggs. Like that whole service design of like, it doesn't matter whether you walk into a store or you're online or you're having a conversation with a bot or whatever it is, it's that one single source of truth. And I think what machines will be able to do much more effectively than humans is take all of that data from all of those in a nanosecond and listen to the conversation that the human being is having with their customer and say, hey, this person asked the same thing last year. Maybe this is a seasonal thing. Like, you know, they've just rung Pfizer, and that's because they've got these itchy eyes, and they want to know whether Pfizer have got a product to, you know, whether they think that their product. And so suddenly, that's probably a terrible example, as if you'd ring Pfizer. You'd hopefully ring your doctor, not Pfizer.
It's
but
just top of mind with the vaccine.
Exactly. Like
the biggest pharma company.
I'm like, that's very weird, Kath, but sure. Of course, people would think to ring Pfizer to do that.
Hang up and call your doctor.
Don't call your doctor, call Pfizer. But you get my meaning. So like Pfizer will then go, okay, so this has been happening 3 times. A machine can do that. They can do it because the CRM knows that. So it's about pulling in all of that data. And I think that's the thing that we're working on. And then surfacing that in a conversational way and helping humans answer the most basic questions. So using a machine so that it's like, hi, how can I help you? Oh, you want to go talk to someone about returning a piece of clothing? Great, no worries at all. Can you just give me your order number? Perfect. I've got your order number. I can see it here. Amazing. Do you want me just to send you out, you know, I'm happy just to email you out a return form so you can send it to us. Oh, no, you've actually got a question? No worries. I'll just put you through to one of my human counterparts. Bang. Yeah. That's augmentation. Yeah. So that is a machine and a human working together to give amazing customer service. And for me, that is the future. So this whole machines are going to take over from humans thing is a very sci-fi, you know, scary concept, but it's simply not going to happen. We as humans are the ones that code the machines. We're in charge. It's kind of like saying that my kids are going to end up, I'm going to get home tonight and they're going to be like, have taken over the house, and, you know, I'm not going to be let into my own house. It's not going to, that's not how it works. Like we tell them what to do. My children wouldn't even know how to, they wouldn't even be able to make a piece of toast hardly. And they are teenagers, so it's embarrassing. Anyway,
no, I know what you mean.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it does a bit. And I think it'll be good to stay on this a little bit, because it's this concept of augmentation. And I completely understand. It's like, how do we actually equip and empower the people that are in that service role with the most information they have, the best quality data, in order for them to provide the best service is essentially what we're talking about. here. What have been, because you said, 2017, you came back from South by Southwest really pumped up. This is something we could do. It's really groundbreaking. What have been some of the biggest challenges for larger scale adoption across Australia, or even, the quality of this sort of technology? What are you sort of seeing as some of the blockers for the adoption here?
People that think that they can do it themselves. So definitely. So, and I don't say that glibly, and I have all respect for people that we're a very specialist company that build conversations. We actually are copywriters, so we think of all the different ways that you could say something, that we think of all the different questions that particular user could have. Where you can actually build a very bad bot experience, whether it's, and we'll talk a bit about digital people in a second, but whether it's a digital person or whether it's just a bot or whether it's a voice experience, you can do it very badly, very easily. And I think the thing that is holding back the entire sector, if you like, is that, I was talking to a very, very big company yesterday, one of Australia's largest companies, and lovely people, super smart, I love them, but they have just been doing it themselves. And they're not conversational designers. My team were trained in the US. I flew them all to the US to be trained, and now we train in-house. It is actually a specific skill that you need to be able to do what we do. But you can go and get Zendesk and put it into your website and build your own. There's almost like a WYSIWYG type thing. And those experiences are really bad. And how many times have you spoken to somebody? I'm sure you have. I certainly do every day of my working life. And they're like, oh yeah, there's that bot like that. It's not Jetstar. I'm not picking on Jetstar because I actually think their bot's okay. But, I was on Jetstar and I had this experience. It was terrible. I don't like bots. It's like, well, no, you don't like that bot. You don't like the bots that you've had an experience with. You haven't experienced maybe one of our bots before. Not all bots are created equal, and so that's one thing. And the second thing is that I think people, and it's this whole nobody puts baby in the corner kind of scenario for me, is putting a conversational experience in the bottom right-hand corner and just making it for FAQs is just missing the point completely of how that technology can be used to, again, augment the existing customer experience that you're creating. And how amazing, and there's all sorts of things. Actually, Michael Spiegel, who you and I both know because you introduced me to him, we've just done a pilot for state trustees which has seen amazing results, and where he's presenting tonight. But what was super interesting with them is the problem was not, they did have long wait times, and there was a few issues that we were trying to address with their phone, with their call centre, which was in-house. But one of the biggest problems that they had was people swearing at them. And actually the OH&S problem that had created for them as a company, because they're trying to protect their employees. And imagine if you and I had to put up, I just can't imagine being sworn at all day. And people are not swearing as in
No.
I'm a New Zealander. I can swear with the rat. But this is people using bad language to really kind of really get across their anger. And so what we've done is taken a chunk of users off the phones, which they love. We've put them on and we've hashed out all the swear words, and their employee satisfaction, just for a tiny pilot, has gone through the roof. Because people now can do their jobs without having to look at words or listen to words. And and when you're being told something, even though you know that person has a mental health issue and has cognitive issues that mean that they don't really mean it, that doesn't make it any easier for you. So that's what I'm super excited about at the moment. But like I said, I think people trying to do it themselves is kind of the bane of our lives, because we just want to grow the sector, and that's hard when there's lots of bad experiences out there. And I think people misunderstanding just thinking, it's just an FAQ that's all I can do, and not understanding the true size of it. And you don't only have to look at the US. I mean, it is massive over there. We are so far behind here, which is exciting for us, but frustrating at the same time.
It's interesting, isn't it? And it's the same. There's so many comparisons to other forms of similar technology or things that we design for, where it's being thought of as a feature of the overall customer experience rather than a central part of your CX strategy, or designing with the conversational element at the very center of what you're doing, as you just said, and then thinking about how we build things out and around instead of, out of the box bots that are just, and people talk about it like that, in that way of like, oh, well, we could just do that via a bot, we don't have to do that. And then that's exactly right. It starts to become something that's so diluted, and they've almost got like backlash now. I think there's a bit of bot hate out. Not a bit, a lot.
Yeah, people just don't think, and people don't think they work, like, because they don't work if you do them badly. So you have to, and to pick up on your point around the being at the heart of CX, I think for us, we actually don't talk about bots or anything like that to start with. Our whole thing is one conversation. Multi-channel. So we're all about the omni-channel. So it doesn't matter where you are talking to and that's why digital humans are really interesting, which is what I said I would pick up on later, because digital humans allow you to have in-store experiences with avatars where that you can actually recreate empathy. I mean, they can be online as well, but the stats around how people are interacting with digital people is astounding. Way better than just a bot alone.
Can we talk about this? Because I think this, like in e-commerce, because you touched on that before, it's just a no-brainer that's an amazing growth area for this. You think about, this is a mass generalization, but 50% of the population being men, most of them hate that in-store experience of, someone coming up. Most people, a lot of people in general, let's not generalize too much, really hate that. Someone coming up to them, how you going today? Can I help you with anything? So having, different channels, different service offerings and different channels is something that could be unbelievable, and also doing it. Yeah. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, look, and I think that if you look at the red shirts in Bunnings and the blue shirts in Officeworks, it's that sort of experience that you can deliver in store and then pull that back into your using technology rather than people. And I'm not saying I love the red shirts and I don't know what I would do without the people running around, but I don't know if you've been to Officeworks just recently, but it is really hard to find, when it's busy, you're like, right, you stay here, I'm going to chase that person around. And then you're kind of like JB Hi-Fi is a classic. You just kind of casually sit awkwardly, looking like, I'm not waiting and I'm not trying to push in on your conversation with the customer service person, but I don't want to leave here because the minute that you stop, everybody's going to be on that person. So I'm just going to sit very uncomfortably close to you so that he realizes that I'm next. And that's not a situation you want to be in, right?
The blue shirt's
so
a shocker.
So imagine if you had an experience where there was a person you could talk to at the end of every aisle, and you just talk normally like you would to the people in Bunnings or Officeworks or JB Hi-Fi or wherever it is, and you just tell them what you want, and they say, oh yeah, that's on aisle 6. So if you go 3 down, about halfway down on the left, that's all you want to know, right? You just want to know, where are the highlighters? My daughter needs the highlighters. Can you tell me where? Because it's like 9:55 TikTok. I need to get the highlighters back for her thing tomorrow. So that you don't want to spend a lot of time trying to find someone to talk about. You just want to get in and get out. And that's where I think that this technology. So for me, digital people, so we work with a company called Soul Machine, who actually work, a fun fact about them is they actually work with Weta Studios, who did Lord of the Rings. So they're digital people. That's why we chose them as a partner.
Yeah.
They're a Kiwi firm. So not that I work with Kiwis and Aussies. I don't discriminate, but they are unbelievably clever at what they do. They've got this incredible, and it's not as expensive as you would think. Like if you get a digital person off the shelf, so you don't want to, if you want Fiona Triaca, like original, so it looks like you and talks like you, that's going to cost you $1 million. But if you are happy just to have, they've got they worked with United Nations last year to do a lot of COVID work. So they've got all of these different personas. And so you can say, I want female, I want this type of background, from an ethnic background, I want whatever it is, and then they will create that for you and give you a person that then comes in and has a conversation. And so what we do is the conversational part. They provide the actual person. And like I said, the data is incredible, and I think that can work in store and out of store to create that connection. Again, one conversation, multiple ways. Like how do you really don't, these days of only ever going in store or only ever being online, I think that you want to be able to go between. You want them to know who you are, whether you're in store or out of store, so people have got these expectations these days that need machines, because as humans, we're not fast enough. It's like, and if you're at, if somebody says to you, oh, can I just put my name, I'm that person that I don't have store cards for anywhere because I just can't possibly, I lose them and stuff. So they're like, oh, do you have a store card? And I'm like, no. Do you want one? And I'm that really unfriendly person that goes, no, I don't want one. But if I could just walk up to a digital human, have a conversation, maybe they face track and say, yeah, okay, cool. Hey, Kath, hey, you bought this or you were looking at this. Do you want to have a look at this in store? Amazing. Because now that there's a reason, rather than that whole loyalty thing, like, I know that you're just going to send me more emails, so just don't sign me up. And I'm just going to give you my Gmail address anyway that no one reads. So just let's not have that awkward conversation, So I think being smarter about it is where the opportunity for brands is.
Which is where the consumer, as customers, we're already, people don't want to give away their data without some value return. That is the thing. We want to see some kind of, especially when it comes to, any kind of purchasing experience, we want to understand that how are you going to use it? What am I going to get from anything that is this? That's that journey starting a bit earlier and starting in store with them recognizing that, maybe you've been doing a price comparison before. You've looked at some of this. Here is what we've got. Here is what we don't have. Yeah. That's a really great example, I think, what you've spoken about there, of that augmentation as well, but at an actual business level. Here's a real human. Do you want to talk to a real human? They're only 5 meters away as well. So just stay put.
And I think that's the whole, it's the same online and offline. Like if you want to, in JB, I'll go back to my JB Hi-Fi, because I guess that's just my bugbear of trying to find someone to talk to. But if you really want to understand about the camera, and you're just about to spend $1,200 on a camera or $3,000 on a camera, you probably are going to be happy to spend the time to wait for a human. And that human is probably going to be a bit more expensive than my 15-year-old daughter, who doesn't know diddly squat about pretty much anything to do with cameras. So, but you want to speak to a human for that. If I just want to know, I've just lost my AirPods and I want to know where they are in the store, because those stores are just like, there's so many specials and that it's hard to find something, then I don't need to speak to a human. I need to just get in and get out. And that's where that augmentation and helping with the simple things, but also, if you could just say, hey, if you want to speak to a human, just stay put and I'll get someone to come to you. How amazing that you know that, oh, they're going to come to me next. I don't have to follow somebody around weirdly. And they're going to send someone to me that actually has an expertise in what I'm here for, whether it's Apple products, cameras, or tripods. They're going to send somebody to me rather than me having to try and find that person, which is always annoying.
So true.
All about customer service, really.
Yeah, exactly. A massive opportunity. I mean, we've stayed really in the kind of the retail or even e-commerce space. I'm sure there are tons more applications, but I'm really interested to know, because I know you've always got an eye out for what's going on internationally. What excites you about what other organizations are doing? Is there anything that you've seen that you're like, oh my God, they're killing it? Who's like the gold standard organizationally, do you think?
Oh God, that is such a good question. And it's so funny. If it was kind of in February last year, I'd be like, oh, there's this person and this person. But I feel like 2020 and the beginning of 21 for me is like, oh, I just got to get my head down and kind of, I think that there's an organization called Media Monks, who are an agency that do some amazing, they're a digital agency, but huge. They were just recently, they had Simon, so I all invest in them, and they're just exploding. So I think they're doing some exciting stuff. I actually think some of the other technologies some of these technologies coming together, but AR I think is really interesting. I'm really kind of excited to see what happens with that in terms of the retail experience. I think I'm really excited by what I'm seeing around airline in the US. They're very progressive when it comes to things like booking tickets and just making, I think UX just excites me, that whole user experience of, I come in and I get there as fast as I can. They almost are anticipating my every need. That to me is exciting. So American Airlines have been doing some awesome stuff in that space. There's some banks, Citibank do some awesome stuff in the US, but I wish I had. I'm sure that I'll get off this and I'll be like, oh, I can't believe I didn't talk about,
like, will be like,
totally should have talked about. But look, there is just so much in our space. There's so much innovation going. And I think it's just because the consumers are right there and they're ready. And I think that I get asked it a lot in Australia. I think you don't, conversational AI and conversational design, you're not trailblazing anymore. Like it is very much part of what corporates in particular are moving towards now, and government. We did most of the start of 2020 for us up until August was all government work, building out massive conversational experiences to do things like check people out of isolation hotels automatically, because there was no one to do that, and there was so many of them every day that checked out at one time. They just didn't have enough people to be able to do that. So we did building out phone voice bots that allowed you to kind of understand, well, here's my symptoms. Should I go to get tested? Should I go to the hospital? So building out lots of government. So I think that it's kind of there in Australia. I think voice, and I hate to say this, and it's a little slower than any of us thought it would be. And it's such a shame but I do believe that the car is the next frontier of that. And I think that when people realize how much a car, and we're all spending a bit more time, those of us that are coming into the office, it's taking a bit more time. Like lots of people are driving, it's taking a bit of time. The car can be a real place of productivity. It's that place that, and you're a mum and I'm a mum, and we don't get any time to ourselves. You and I have talked about that. And so having a place like a car where I'm sitting, like being able to order school lunches and via voice, being able to check bank accounts, book in hairdressing appointments, check what time the doctor's appointment is for my daughter tomorrow, book in a gym appointment, all of those things. Suddenly, if you can do all of that via voice, I think that we've got what we'll see in Australia is we might actually end up going quite deep in something like that. And I'm super excited by that, just as a human being, because I don't want to sit in a car or sit on the train and not do something. I'm that person that wants to be using every minute of every day, and that is possible via voice. I wouldn't necessarily make it a doctor's appointment if you're on the train. I don't know if everybody needs to know your kind of inner workings of why you're going to the doctor, but there are, like, we've built a bot for a doctor's call center, so who works with lots of doctors, and that's just simply to make change and update their appointments. Because people are like, oh, I can't make that appointment, can I? And just being able to do that on the fly without having to speak to a human is massive. I mean, you can imagine in a doctor, think of all those doctor surgeries with all those, they're so busy, those people at reception. They're like, they've got people coming in, they're trying to ring people to give them their results, plus they've got people ringing on the phone. It's a crazy, so if we can help them in some way, I think it's helping everybody. So I'm excited.
It might even be a text kind of SMS option as well. It's probably more sensible for those ones where it's a bit more private.
Exactly.
That's a growth area.
Absolutely.
Oh, so good. We're almost at the end, Kath, and I feel like we have only just begun. So this might have to be part 1, part 2, because there's Kath, for everyone listening, as I mentioned at the top, does some really incredible things and has done with Versa when it comes to, building an extraordinary culture, maintaining a culture, all of those things around people, and also new ways of working. So I think that might be what we cover.
Future of work. I'd love to talk about it. Future of work. Like, what's the new? How do people work remotely? And it's probably the thing that, when I'm not thinking about work, that's really what I'm just super interested to try and find a better way. I came out of COVID wanting to just do better. And I didn't want to go backwards. I wanted to go forwards, and I wanted to go forwards boldly. And so I would love to talk about some of that stuff, because I think it's interesting just to talk. Just, you and I could, I'm sure, kind of riff off each other for a long time about just how to build those cultures when not everyone's sitting side by side.
Yeah, it's tough, and it's a big topic.
It is.
This has been thank you so much, Kath, for joining us on the Naked Ambition podcast this afternoon. It's been amazing talking to you about conversational AI and all the topics and all the possibilities around it. I hope this has inspired some people out there, and some of our organizations and our listeners and community on what those possibilities might be. And also, Australia setting a really high standard for these exciting innovations. So thanks so much, Kath.
No worries. Thank you for having me. It's been really enjoyable.
Thanks, everyone.